From the outside, you look fine. Maybe even better than fine. You show up, you talk normally, you smile when needed. No one questions you. No one suspects anything. Because on the surface, everything looks okay. You're functioning, you're surviving, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And that's enough for everyone else, but not for you. Because deep down, you know something is off. Something doesn't feel right. Not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, constant, uncomfortable way. Like something is missing, like something is slipping, like you're slowly losing, but you can't explain how. That's the silent part. There's no visible failure, no big collapse, no moment where everything falls apart, just a slow, invisible decline. And the worst part? No one sees it, because you've mastered the mask, the ability to look okay, even when you're not. You laugh when others laugh, you respond when others talk, you play your role perfectly. But inside, you feel disconnected from yourself, from your purpose, from your potential. You feel like you're moving, but not progressing, living, but not growing, existing, but not becoming. And that feeling, it stays with you all the time, even in silence, even when you're alone, especially when you're alone, because that's when the mask comes off. That's when there's no distraction, no performance, no pretending, just you and your thoughts. And those thoughts, they don't lie. They remind you, quietly, relentlessly, you could be doing more. You're not where you should be. You're falling behind. And you feel it, but you don't act on it. You ignore it. You push it away, because facing it feels uncomfortable, feels overwhelming, feels like admitting something you're not ready to admit, that you're not okay, not really. But instead of confronting it, you maintain the image. You keep showing up, keep acting normal, keep pretending everything is fine, because it's easier, easier than explaining, easier than changing, easier than breaking the pattern. And slowly, that becomes your life, a life that looks stable but feels empty, a life that appears fine but lacks direction, a life where nothing is wrong but nothing is right either. That's the trap, the silent loser syndrome. You're not failing loudly, you're losing quietly. And because it's quiet, you ignore it. Because it's not urgent, because it's not painful enough to force change. So you stay in the same routine, in the same mindset, in the same place, day after day. And from the outside, you still look fine. But inside, you know the truth. You're not growing. You're not improving. You're not becoming who you could be. And that realization, it's heavy, because it's not visible. It's not something you can show others. It's something you feel, something you carry silently. That's why it's dangerous, because no one is coming to save you. No one sees the problem. No one knows what you're dealing with. So no one interrupts it. No one forces change. And that means it continues, unnoticed, unchallenged, unstopped. Until one day you look back and realize how much time you lost, not by failing, but by staying the same. And that's the truth, the silent kind, the one that doesn't scream, but slowly takes everything from you. So ask yourself, are you really okay? Or are you just good at pretending? Because there's a difference, and that difference might change your life, if you're willing to face it. Because nobody is coming to save you, and the life you're living right now, it's either building you or slowly breaking you.
silently.
There's a feeling you can't put into words, not clearly, not completely, but it's there, all the time, in the background, quiet, constant, uncomfortable. You try to ignore it, you distract yourself, you stay busy, but it doesn't go away because it's not external, it's internal. It's not about what's happening around you, it's about what's not happening inside you. That's why it's confusing, because from the outside, everything looks fine. You're not failing, you're not struggling in an obvious way. You're functioning, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So logically, you should feel okay, but you don't. And that gap between how things look and how you feel, that's where the confusion lives. You start questioning yourself. Why do I feel like this? What's wrong with me? Why am I not satisfied? And you don't have answers, because nothing is clearly broken. There's no single problem, no obvious issue. Just a feeling, a quiet dissatisfaction, a sense that something is off, that something is missing, that you're not where you should be, but you can't explain why. And that's the trap. Because when you can't define the problem, you can't solve it. So you stay in it. You carry it, day after day, trying to ignore it, trying to push it away. But it keeps coming back, because it's real, even if you can't explain it. And the more you ignore it, the stronger it becomes. It starts showing up in different ways. Lack of motivation, lack of energy, lack of focus. Things that used to excite you don't anymore. Things that should matter feel meaningless, and you don't understand why, because again, nothing is obviously wrong. But deep down, you know. You know you're not growing. You know you're not improving. You know you're not becoming anything new. You're just repeating. The same days, the same habits, the same routine, over and over again. And repetition without progress creates emptiness. That's what you're feeling. Not failure, not pain, but emptiness. Because you're moving, but not forward. You're doing things, but they don't lead anywhere. And your mind senses that, even if you don't fully understand it. It knows this is not it. This is not enough. This is not where you're supposed to stay. And that awareness, it creates discomfort, a subtle pressure, a quiet frustration that builds over time, because you're stuck between two realities, the one you're living and the one you feel you could be living. And that gap, it hurts, not loudly, but deeply, because it reminds you there's more you could do, more you could become, more you're not reaching. And yet, you're not acting on it. You're not changing anything. You're just staying in the same place with the same feeling. That's the silent struggle. You're aware enough to feel it, but not active enough to fix it. And that creates tension, because now you can't fully enjoy your current life, but you're not building a new one either. You're in between, stuck, not physically, but mentally, emotionally. And that's exhausting, because you're carrying something you can't explain. You're feeling something you can't define. You're living something you don't fully understand. And that lack of clarity, it keeps you there. Because clarity leads to action, but confusion leads to delay. And delay leads to stagnation. And stagnation is what you're feeling. That's the truth. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're just stagnant. And stagnation feels like emptiness. It feels like nothing is happening, because nothing is, not in the direction that matters. So now you have to face it, not ignore it, not distract yourself from it, but actually look at it and ask yourself, what am I really doing with my life? Where am I actually going? Am I growing or just existing? Because those questions, they bring clarity, and clarity breaks confusion, but it also creates responsibility, because once you see it, you can't ignore it anymore. You can't pretend everything is fine. You can't go back to that comfortable illusion, because now you know, you feel it, you understand it, and that means something has to change, because nobody is coming to save you, and the feeling you can't explain will stay with you until you do something about it.
It doesn't disappear suddenly. You don't wake up one day and realize, I have no ambition. No, it fades, slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first, you have energy, you have ideas, you have plans. You think about doing more, becoming more, changing your life. There's a spark, a sense of direction, a feeling that you're capable of something bigger. But then, life continues, days pass, and that spark, it doesn't disappear, it weakens, because you don't act on it, not immediately, not consistently. You delay. You tell yourself, I'll start later. I just need the right time. I'm not fully ready yet. And those small delays, they seem harmless, but they're not. Because every time you delay, you disconnect from that ambition. Every time you ignore that urge to act, you weaken it. And over time, it starts fading. Not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't used. That's how ambition works. It needs action to survive. It needs movement to grow. Without that, it dies. And the scary part? You don't notice it happening. Because it's not dramatic. There's no moment where everything collapses, no sudden realization. Just a slow, gradual decline. You start thinking less about your goals, less about your future, less about what you could become. You become more focused on the present, but not in a powerful way, in a passive way. Just getting through the day, just doing what's required, nothing more, nothing extra. And that becomes your routine, a routine without ambition, without direction, without urgency. And because it feels normal, you accept it. You stop questioning it. You stop expecting more from yourself. Because deep down, you've lowered your standards, not consciously, but gradually, through repetition, through inaction, through comfort. That's how ambition dies, not from failure, but from neglect. You didn't lose it because you couldn't succeed. You lost it because you stopped trying. And now you're in a different state, a quieter one, a calmer one, but not in a good way, in a stagnant way, where nothing excites you. Nothing drives you. Nothing pushes you forward. You still function. You still live. But you don't chase anything. You don't build anything. You don't create anything new. And that's the silent loss. Because from the outside, you still look fine. But inside, something is missing. That fire, that urgency, that drive. It's not there anymore. Or at least, not like before. And you feel it. Even if you can't explain it, you feel the difference between who you were and who you've become. And that realization, it's uncomfortable. Because now you know something has changed, something important, something that mattered. But you don't know how to get it back. Because it didn't leave suddenly. It faded. And what fades slowly is harder to rebuild. Because you don't know where it started. You don't know when it began. You just know it's not there anymore. And that creates confusion, frustration, a quiet sense of loss, because you remember what it felt like to want more, to feel driven, to have purpose. And now, that feeling is weak, distant, almost unfamiliar. And that's the danger. Because without ambition, you stop growing. Without growth, you stop evolving. Without evolution, you stay where you are, forever. Not because you can't move, but because you don't feel the need to. And that's worse, because at least when you struggle, there's tension, there's pressure, there's movement. But when ambition is gone, There's nothing, just comfort, just routine, just existence. And that's how people lose years, not chasing, not building, just living, without direction, without intention, without urgency. And one day, they look back and realize they had more in them, more potential, more ability, more possibilities, but they didn't use it, not because they couldn't, but because they stopped trying. And now, that's the truth, the quiet one, the one most people don't admit. You don't lose your potential all at once. You lose it slowly, through inaction, through comfort, through ignoring that voice that once told you you can do more. And now, that voice is quiet, almost gone, but not completely, because deep down, it's still there, waiting for you to listen again, for you to act again, for you to bring it back. But nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody is coming to save you. So if you want that ambition back, you have to rebuild it through action, through movement, through doing, even when you don't feel like it, because feeling comes after action, not before. And if you wait for it, you'll stay where you are. So don't wait. Start. Even small, even slow, but start, because that's how the spark returns. And that's how you stop losing and start becoming again. You think addiction looks obvious, something extreme, something destructive, something you can clearly see. But the most dangerous addiction doesn't look like one. It looks normal. It feels normal. It even feels safe. It's called comfort, and you're addicted to it. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that destroys everything instantly, but in a quiet, controlled, socially acceptable way. You choose what feels easy. You avoid what feels hard. You stay where things are predictable, and you tell yourself, this is fine. This is okay. I'll push later. But later never comes, because comfort doesn't push you forward. It pulls you back every single time. That's the trap. Comfort doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like relief, like peace, like rest. And sometimes it is. But when it becomes your default, it becomes your prison. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. Change doesn't happen in ease. Progress doesn't come from doing what feels good. It comes from doing what's necessary. And what's necessary usually feels uncomfortable. So you avoid it. You delay it. You replace it with something easier, something lighter, something that gives you instant satisfaction. Scrolling, watching, waiting, planning, but not doing. And that's the pattern. You convince yourself you're preparing. You convince yourself you're thinking it through. But deep down, you know, you're avoiding. Avoiding effort, avoiding failure, avoiding discomfort. Because discomfort feels like danger, even when it's not. Your brain sees it as a threat, something unfamiliar, something uncertain, something that could go wrong. So it pushes you back to comfort, to what's known, to what's safe. And you follow it, because it feels right, because it feels easier. But easier doesn't mean better. Easier just means less resistance, and less resistance means less growth. That's the cost. And you don't feel that cost immediately. You feel it later, when time has passed, when opportunities are gone, when progress is missing, and you look back and think, I should have done more. But in the moment, comfort wins, because it's immediate, because it's available, because it doesn't require anything from you. No effort, no discipline, no pressure. Just stay, just relax, just exist. And that's enough to keep you stuck, not in a painful way, but in a comfortable one. And that's why it's dangerous, because pain forces change, but comfort prevents it. You don't feel the need to move.
You don't feel the urgency. You don't feel the pressure. So you stay. And staying becomes your habit, your routine, your life. You start choosing comfort automatically, without thinking, without questioning, because it's familiar, because it's easy, because it's what you've been doing. And over time, that becomes your identity. I'm just like this. I don't push too hard. I take things easy. But that's not who you are. That's what you've practiced repeatedly. And repetition creates reality. So if you repeat comfort, you create an average life. If you repeat ease, you create limited growth. If you repeat avoidance, you create stagnation. That's the truth. And breaking it feels hard. Because now you're not just changing actions, you're fighting an addiction. An invisible one, a silent one that feels good. And that's what makes it difficult, because you don't want to leave it. Not fully, not consistently. You still want comfort. You still want ease. You still want that feeling of safety. But you can't have both, not at the same level. You can't stay comfortable and expect to grow. You can't stay safe and expect to evolve. You can't stay in the same place and expect a different life. So, something has to change. And that change starts with discomfort. Choosing it, accepting it, moving through it, even when it feels hard, even when your mind tells you, stop. Because that voice, it's the addiction speaking, trying to pull you back, trying to keep you where you are. But now, you see it, you understand it, which means you can break it. But only if you act, only if you choose differently every day, every moment, when it matters, because nobody is coming to save you. And the comfort you keep choosing is slowly costing you your potential. So decide, do you want to feel comfortable now or fulfilled later? Because you can't have both. And whatever you choose, you become.
You're doing things. A lot of things. Your day is full. Your time feels occupied. You move from one task to another, checking things off, responding to messages, handling small responsibilities. And at the end of the day, you feel tired. You feel like you've done something, like you've been productive. But have you? Look closer, not at how busy you were, but at what actually moved forward. What changed? What improved? What got closer to where you want to be? And suddenly, the answer isn't clear, because most of what you did didn't really matter. Not in the long term, not in the direction that counts. That's fake productivity, the illusion of progress. You feel active, but you're not advancing. You feel busy, but you're not building. You feel tired, but you're not growing. And that's dangerous, because it tricks you. It convinces you you're doing enough. You're on track. You're making progress. But you're not. You're just maintaining your current life, your current level, your current reality. And maintenance doesn't lead to change. It keeps you where you are. But because you're busy, you don't question it. You don't stop and ask, am I actually moving forward? Because you feel like you are. You've been active all day. You've done things. But activity is not progress. Movement is not direction. And that's the difference. You can move all day and still go nowhere. You can stay busy and still stay stuck. Because what matters is not how much you do, but what you do. And most of what fills your day is easy, low effort, low impact, low resistance. Things that don't challenge you, things that don't push you, things that don't require focus, because your mind prefers them. They're comfortable. They're quick. They give you a sense of completion without real effort, without real growth. And that's why you choose them, over and over again. Emails, messages, scrolling, small tasks. They keep you occupied, but they don't move your life forward. And because you're doing something, you feel justified. You feel like, I've been working, I've been productive, I deserve to relax. But deep down, you know there's something more important that you're avoiding. Something harder, something that actually matters, something that would push you forward, but you delay it. You replace it with smaller things, easier things, because they're safer, because they don't challenge you. And that's how fake productivity works. It hides the truth. It keeps you busy enough to not feel guilty, but not productive enough to actually change your life. That's the trap. You're not wasting time completely. You're just not using it effectively. And that's worse, because it creates the illusion that everything is fine, that you're on the right path, that you're doing enough. But time doesn't care about your intentions. It only responds to your actions. And if your actions don't lead to progress, time is still passing. Your life is still moving, but you are not. Not in the direction that matters. So you stay in the same place, with the same results, with the same level of growth, year after year. And one day, you realize all that time you thought you were being productive didn't actually build anything, didn't actually move you forward, didn't actually change your life. And that realization, it hits hard, because now you see it. You see the difference between being busy and being effective, between activity and progress, between effort and direction. And once you see it, you can't ignore it anymore. You can't pretend everything is fine. You can't keep filling your day with meaningless tasks, because now you know better. And knowing better means doing better, because nobody is coming to save you. No one is going to fix your time. No one is going to decide what matters for you. That's your responsibility. So now, you have to be honest. What are you really doing with your day? Are you building something, or just staying busy? Are you moving forward, or just moving? Because there's a difference, and that difference defines your life. So stop hiding behind busyness. Stop confusing activity with progress. Stop telling yourself you're doing enough. And start asking, am I doing what actually matters? Because that's the only thing that changes your life. Not how much you do, but what you do. And if you get that wrong, you can spend years working without getting anywhere. So choose carefully, because your time is limited, and the way you use it decides everything.
You already know what to do. That's the truth you don't want to admit. You don't need another video, you don't need another plan, you don't need more information, because deep down, you already know. You know what would change your life. You know what you should be doing. You know the actions that matter, but you're not doing them. Why? Because they're hard, because they're uncomfortable, because they require something from you that you're not giving. Discipline, focus, effort, consistency. And that's where the problem is. Not in knowledge, but in execution. You don't lack direction, you lack action. And that gap between knowing and doing, that's where your life is stuck. You think,
I'll start soon. I just need to get ready. I'll do it when I feel right. But those are delays disguised as preparation. Because the truth is, you don't want to do the work. Not because you're lazy, but because your mind resists it. It resists anything that feels difficult, anything that requires effort, anything that pushes you outside your comfort zone. So when it's time to act, you hesitate, you delay, you find something else to do, something easier, something lighter, something that doesn't require as much from you, and you convince yourself this is still productive. But it's not. It's avoidance. And you know it. You feel it. Every time you choose something easy over something necessary, there's a moment, a small, quiet moment where you know this is not what I should be doing. But you ignore it, because facing it means doing the hard thing. And doing the hard thing means stepping into discomfort. And discomfort is what your mind avoids. That's the battle. Not outside, inside, between what you know you should do and what you feel like doing. And most of the time, you follow what you feel, because it's easier, because it's immediate, because it doesn't require resistance. But feelings don't build your life. Actions do. And if your actions are driven by comfort, your life will stay comfortable, but limited. If your actions are driven by avoidance, your life will stay stagnant, but stable. And that's the trap. You're not stuck because you don't know. You're stuck because you're avoiding. Avoiding the real work, the deep work, the uncomfortable work, the work that actually changes things. Because that work, it's not easy. It's not exciting at first. It's not instantly rewarding. It requires patience. It requires consistency. It requires showing up even when you don't feel like it. And that's what you're not doing. You're waiting to feel ready, but you'll never feel ready. You're waiting to feel motivated, but motivation doesn't last. You're waiting for the perfect moment, but it doesn't exist. So you stay in the same cycle, knowing what to do, but not doing it. And that creates frustration, because now you can't blame ignorance. You can't say, I didn't know. You know, and you're still not acting. And that's where it hurts, because now it's on you, fully, not partially, not sometimes, but completely. Because if you're not doing what you know you should, that's a choice, a conscious one, to stay where you are, to avoid change, to keep your life the same, even if you don't want to admit it. That's the truth. And it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because until you face it, nothing changes. You'll keep watching, keep learning, keep thinking, but not doing. And doing is what matters. So now you have to decide. Are you going to keep avoiding, or are you going to act? Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because the work you're avoiding is the work that will change your life. And nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's coming to save you. So if you want something different, you have to do something different. Even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable, even if you don't feel ready. Because readiness is not required. Action is. And the moment you start, the resistance breaks, the hesitation fades, the progress begins. But only if you move. Because thinking won't change your life. Planning won't change your life. Knowing won't change your life. Only doing will. So stop avoiding and start acting. Because the life you want is on the other side of the work you keep running from. You don't notice it at first. There's no alarm, no warning, no moment where everything stops and says, you're losing. Because if it did, you would react, you would change, you would do something. But it doesn't. It stays quiet, silent, subtle. And that's why it works, because you don't see it happening. You don't feel it immediately. You don't recognize the shift. You just live your life, day after day, doing what you usually do, following your routine, staying in your comfort, And slowly, something changes. Not outside, inside. Your standards drop. Your expectations shrink. Your effort decreases. But not in a way that feels obvious, in a way that feels normal. You stop pushing yourself, but you don't think, I'm giving up. You think, I'm just taking it easy. You stop trying harder, but you don't think, I'm falling behind. You think, I'm being realistic. That's how it starts. Small shifts, small compromises, small decisions that seem harmless, but they're not, because every small step back moves you further from who you could be. And over time, those steps add up. You become less focused, less disciplined, less driven, but you don't notice because it's gradual, because it's subtle, because it doesn't hurt enough to wake you up. So you continue, you adapt, you accept this new version of yourself without questioning it, without challenging it, without realizing you're becoming someone you never intended to be. That's the silent part. There's no big failure, no major loss, no dramatic downfall, just a slow drift away from growth, away from ambition, away from your potential. And because you're still functioning, you think you're fine. You're not struggling, you're not failing, you're just not improving. And that feels okay at first, because there's no pressure, no urgency, no discomfort, just stability, just routine, just a life that works. But over time, that stability becomes stagnation, that routine becomes limitation, that okay becomes emptiness. And now you feel it, not clearly, but deeply. A quiet dissatisfaction, a subtle regret, a sense that something is off, that you're not where you should be, that you're not doing what you could be doing. But by now, it's harder to change because your habits are stronger, your mindset is more fixed, your comfort is deeper. And that's the cost of losing slowly. Because when you lose fast, you react, you adjust, you fight back. But when you lose slowly, you adapt, you accept, you stay. And that's what makes it dangerous, because you don't feel the loss immediately. You feel it later, when time has passed, when opportunities are gone, when the gap between who you are and who you could have been is too big to ignore. And that's when it hits you, not as a shock, but as a realization. I could have done more. I should have taken it seriously. I wasted time. And that realization, it's heavy, because now you see everything clearly, the patterns, the habits, the decisions that led you here. And you realize it didn't happen to you. You allowed it, through inaction, through comfort, through ignoring that inner voice that once told you, do more, but you didn't listen, not consistently, not seriously. And now you're here, not broken, not destroyed, but limited, less than what you could be. And that's the definition of a silent loser. Not someone who fails loudly, but someone who never fully tries. Someone who settles, someone who stays in the middle, safe, comfortable, average. And that's the hardest truth to accept, because it's not about what you lost, it's about what you never became. And that hurts more, because potential, once wasted, doesn't come back the same way. Time doesn't rewind, opportunities don't wait, and growth requires action, consistent action, not occasional effort, not temporary motivation, real daily commitment. And that's what you didn't give, but you still can if you act now, if you wake up now, if you stop this slow loss before it becomes permanent. Because it's not too late, not yet, but it will be if you keep going like this, if you keep choosing comfort, if you keep avoiding effort, if you keep ignoring that voice. Because that voice, it's still there, quiet but present, telling you, you can do more, you should do more. And this time, you have to listen, because nobody's coming to save you. And if you don't stop this now, you won't even realize how much you've lost
until it's already gone.
You feel like you have time, plenty of it. You wake up, and the day feels long. There's no rush, no urgency, no pressure. You think, I'll do it later. I still have time. I'll start soon. And in that moment, it feels true. Because one day feels slow. It stretches. It gives you the illusion that time is on your side. But it's not. Because while your days feel slow, your years move fast. You don't notice it happening. You don't feel it passing. But it is. Right now, as you sit here, as you think, as you delay, time is moving forward without stopping, without waiting, without caring. And the dangerous part? You don't feel the loss. Not immediately, because nothing dramatic happens. There's no alarm, no sudden realization. Just normal days, one after another, repeating, blending together until you can't tell them apart. And that's how time disappears. Not in big moments, but in small, repeated routines. Wake up, do the same things, get through the day, sleep, repeat. And because each day feels the same, you don't notice anything changing. But something is, your life, moving forward, without progress, without direction, without intention. And that's the silent loss. Because you're not standing still, you're moving, but not in the direction that matters. You're spending time, but not using it. And time doesn't come back. Once it's gone forever. You can't rewind it. You can't get it back. You can only look at what you did with it. And that's where it hurts. Because one day you will stop. Not physically, but mentally. You'll pause, and you'll look back at your life, at your time, at your decisions, and you'll realize how much of it passed without you really living it, without you really building anything, without you really becoming anything more. And that realization, it's heavy, because now you see it. You see how many days you repeated, how many moments you wasted, how many opportunities you ignored, and you can't change it. You can't undo it. You can't go back. You can only accept it. And that's the pain. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Because it's not about failure. It's about time. Time you had. Time you could have used. Time you didn't value enough. And now it's gone. And the worst part? You didn't even notice it. You didn't feel it happening. You didn't realize it slipping away. Because you were comfortable. Because you were distracted. Because you thought there's always tomorrow. But tomorrow is not guaranteed. And even if it comes, it's less than today. Because time is decreasing, not increasing. Every day you live is one less day you have. And if you're not using it, you're losing it. That's the truth. And it's not comfortable, but it's real. Because time doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't care about what you intend to do. It only responds to what you actually do. And if you're not acting, it keeps moving, leaving you behind. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, in terms of growth. Because while you stay the same, the world moves forward. Opportunities move forward. People move forward. And you stay in the same place, with the same mindset, with the same habits. And the gap, it grows every day, every month, every year, until one day it becomes too big to ignore. And that's when it hits, not as a sudden shock, but as a quiet realization. I'm behind. Not compared to others, but compared to who you could have been. And that's the hardest part, because it's not about them, it's about you, your potential, your ability, your missed growth. And now you feel it, the weight of it, the reality of it, and you wish you had started earlier. You wish you had taken things more seriously. You wish you had used your time better.
But wishing doesn't change anything, because time only moves one way, forward. So now you have a choice. Keep going like this? Keep repeating the same patterns? Keep losing time silently? Or change, right now? Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because this moment is all you have, and what you do with it decides everything. Because nobody is coming to save you, and time will not wait for you to be ready. It never has, and it never will. So don't wait. Move, act, do something, because the life you want is not built in the future. It's built now, with the time you still have, before it's gone, without you even realizing it.
You keep thinking you're wasting time. That's what you tell yourself. That day was wasted. That week was unproductive. I lost so much time. But the truth is, it's deeper than that. You're not just losing time, you're losing yourself. Piece by piece, moment by moment. Every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you choose delay over action, every time you ignore that voice that tells you to do more, you're not just wasting a moment, you're reshaping who you are. And that's the real loss, because time is external, but you are internal. You are your identity, your mindset, your habits, your standards, and all of that is being shaped every day by what you do and what you don't do. So when you waste time, you're not just losing hours, you're lowering yourself, lowering your discipline, lowering your standards, lowering your expectations without realizing it. And over time, that becomes who you are. Not someone who failed, but someone who stopped trying, someone who stopped pushing, someone who stopped becoming. And that's the difference between losing life and losing yourself. Losing life feels like something happened to you, like you didn't have control, like circumstances got in the way. But losing yourself, that's different. That's internal. That's choice. Even if it's unconscious, even if it's repeated, even if it's subtle, it's still happening through you. And that's hard to accept because it means you're responsible for what you're becoming, for what you're not becoming, for what you're allowing. Because every day you're building yourself or breaking yourself. There is no neutral. There is no just staying the same. Because staying the same in a moving world means falling behind. And falling behind means losing parts of yourself. The version of you that could have existed, the version of you that had more potential, more discipline, more clarity, more drive, that version, it doesn't disappear suddenly. It fades slowly because you're not feeding it, you're not acting on it, you're not building it. And what you don't build, you lose. That's the reality. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become someone you don't recognize. You become that person gradually, through choices, through habits, through patterns, repeated over time. And now you're here. Not broken, not destroyed, but less. Less focused, less driven, less disciplined than you could be. And you feel it. Even if you don't say it, even if you don't admit it, you feel the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that gap, it hurts. Because it's not about failure, it's about potential. Potential you're not using. Potential you're slowly losing. And that's the hardest truth. Because you know you're capable of more. You felt it before. You've seen glimpses of it. Moments where you were focused, driven, clear. But you didn't stay there. You went back to comfort, back to ease, back to patterns that don't push you. And those patterns, they took something from you. Not everything, but enough. Enough to keep you average, enough to make you feel like you're not fully yourself.
And that's the realization. You're not just wasting time, you're wasting your own potential, your own ability, your own life, not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but in a silent, gradual, consistent way. And if you don't stop it, it continues until one day you look back and realize you didn't just lose time, you lost the person you could have been. And that's not something you can recover easily, because time is gone, moments are gone, opportunities are gone, and all that's left is what you did with it or what you didn't. So now you have to face it, not avoid it, not distract yourself from it, but actually see it clearly, honestly, without excuses, without blame, because this is not about what happened to you. It's about what you did and what you didn't do. And once you see that, everything changes, because now you understand the real cost, not just time, but identity, not just moments, but potential, not just days, but your future. And that's enough to wake you up, if you let it, because nobody is coming to save you. And if you don't stop this, you won't just lose time, you'll lose yourself completely. So don't, not anymore, not after this, because you still have something left: time, energy, opportunity, and most importantly, awareness. And awareness is your chance to stop, to reset, to rebuild, to become again. But only if you act now, before more of you disappears without you even realizing it.
There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, but real, painfully real, where you can't pretend anymore. You can't hide behind distractions. You can't justify your habits. You can't convince yourself that everything is fine, because deep down, you know it's not. And this time, you don't ignore it. You don't push it away. You don't escape it. You face it fully, honestly, without filters. And what you see is uncomfortable. You see your life, not the version you show others, not the version you imagine, but the version you actually live. The patterns, the delays, the excuses, the wasted time, all of it, right in front of you, clear, undeniable. And for the first time, you stop lying to yourself. No more, "I'll start tomorrow." No more, "I just need time." No more, "I'm doing okay." Because you're not where you want to be, not who you could be. And that realization, it hits hard. Not as anger, not as panic, but as clarity. Deep, quiet clarity. The kind that doesn't scream, but changes everything. Because now you can't go back. You can't pretend you didn't see this. You can't return to ignorance, because now you're aware. And awareness is a turning point, not a comfortable one, but a necessary one. Because this is where everything splits. Two paths, two futures, two completely different outcomes. On one side, nothing changes. You go back to the same habits, back to the same comfort, back to the same routine. You forget this moment. You ignore this feeling. You convince yourself it's not that serious. And slowly, everything continues. The same patterns, the same life, the same silent loss. Until one day, there's no more time left to change, and all that's left is regret. Deep, quiet regret, the kind that doesn't go away, because it's not about what you lost, it's about what you never became. That's one path, and it's easy, comfortable, familiar, but empty.
On the other side, everything changes. Not instantly, not perfectly, but intentionally. You decide, this is not my life anymore. You stop waiting, you stop delaying, you stop avoiding, and you act, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't feel ready. Because you understand something now. You don't need to feel ready. You need to move. You start small, but you start. You build discipline. You create structure. You take control. One decision at a time, one action at a time, and slowly something shifts. Not outside, inside. Your mindset changes. Your standards rise. Your identity rebuilds. You're not the same person anymore. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer pretending. You're no longer avoiding. You're no longer living in that silent loss. And that change, it compounds, day after day, week after week, until one day you look at your life again and it's different. Not because luck changed, not because circumstances improved, but because you did. Because you finally took responsibility, because you finally stopped lying to yourself. And that's the comeback. Not dramatic, not loud, but real, sustainable, earned. And the best part? It was always available. You just didn't take it until now. Because now you see the truth, you feel the urgency, you understand the cost, and that's enough. Enough to change, enough to act, enough to become something more. But only if you choose it. Because nobody is coming to save you. No one is going to fix your life for you. No one is going to push you every day. That's on you. It always was, and it always will be. But that's not a weakness. That's your power. Because if it's on you, then it's in your control. Your decisions, your actions, your future. And that means you can change it. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not later. Now. Because this moment, this exact moment, is the one that matters. The one where you decide, do I stay the same or do I become more? And whatever you choose, you live every day until it becomes your life. So choose wisely, because time is not waiting, and neither should you. Because the version of you you want to become is waiting, not somewhere far, not in the future, but in your actions right now. So stop lying, start acting, and become who you were always meant to be.